Hi all, here we're going to be solving triangle that a ladder makes with a wall. It will be a three-part question. A 25-foot ladder leans against the wall. The bottom of the ladder is 18 feet from the base of the wall. So let's draw a diagram. We have a wall and we have a ladder that leans on the wall. So we are told that the ladder is 25 feet long and the bottom of the ladder is 18 feet from the base of the wall. So this is 18 feet. We are assuming that the wall is perpendicular to the ground, meaning it's at the right angle, otherwise it would be leaning and possibly falling. Alright, now we are ready to answer some questions. So we need to determine the angle the bottom of the ladder makes with the ground, and we need to round it to the nearest degree. So we are looking for this angle, and let's call it an x, our unknown angle. We are looking for an angle and we have adjacent side and the hypotenuse. And the function that is using adjacent and the hypotenuse is the cosine. Cosine theta is equal to adjacent side divided by hypotenuse. Let's substitute and solve. Cosine of x is equal to 18 feet divided by 25 feet. Feet and feet will cancel, so we get cosine of x is equal to 18 out of 25. Now, this is our ratio, and we are looking for x that is inside of the cosine function. This is where an idea of inverse of the cosine comes in. Just like squaring, let's say for example 5 to the second power, we are squaring the 5. Now squaring the 5 gives us the value of 25 and we're losing the initial base value. Now the inverse of squaring is to take a square root. These two functions cancel each other out and the result is the 5, the original number. So the inverse of the cosine is cosine to the -1. And all you need to do is being able to find that mark on your calculator. What you do to one side of the equation, you have to do the same thing to the other side. Cosine of -1. So on the left, cosine and the inverse of the cosine, which is written as cosine to the -1, cancel out, and you're left with x, which is equal to cosine to the -1 of 18 divided by 25. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. Otherwise, you will get a wrong value if you're in radians. So I get a decimal of x is 43.94 . We need to round off to the nearest degree, so we need to round off to the decimal place. We look at the number to the right of it, and since it's more than 5, we add 1. So we get x is approximately 44 degrees. And this would be our answer. So for part B, we are still working with the same triangle. And now we need to determine the angle the top of the ladder makes with the wall. So we are going to be looking for this theta. So we are giving the values of opposite side and the hypotenuse. And the function that is using those is sine of theta, which is opposite side divided by hypotenuse. Sine of theta is equal to, opposite side is 18 feet out of adjacent side is 25 feet. The feet and feet would cancel. Inverse function of a sine is sine to the -1. And the reason I'm using this is because I'm solving for this theta. And that's the only way of getting it out of the function of sine. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do the same thing to the other side. So let's do sine of -1 of this ratio. And we get sine, and the inverse of sine would cancel. So theta is equal to sine to the -1 of 18 divided by 25. Make sure you are in degree mode when you plug this in. So theta is approximately 46.05 degrees. And if we round it off to the nearest degree, we would get theta is equal to 46 degrees. And this would be our solution. You should note that if you have 2 out of 3 angles, you could also subtract them from 180, since angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 is equal to 180 degrees. First angle was 90 degrees plus 44 that we have found from a previous part of this question, plus our third angle that we were just looking for, and it had to be equal to 180. To solve for the third angle, we would minus 90 to both sides. We would also subtract 44 from both sides. And we would find that third angle is equal to 46 degrees, which is the same answer as we got with trig. But it only works if you have 2 out of 3 angles. Alright, the last part of the question is asking us how high to the nearest tenth of a foot is the top of the ladder from the ground. Is there more than one method to determine the height? Yes, there is. So we are looking for this top of where the ladder is reaching, this wall. So we're looking for this measurement. Let's call it an X. If you choose to work with the 44-degree angle, this would make X the opposite side. So you could have sine of 44 degrees equals to opposite, which is X, divided by hypotenuse, which is 25. Tangent is also a function that uses the opposite side. So tangent of 44 degrees would be opposite X that we are looking for divided by adjacent, which would be 18 feet. You could also use 46 degrees and have the adjacent side. So cosine of 46 degrees is the adjacent side, which is X, divided by hypotenuse, which is 25. Now we could also use cotangent, secant, and cosecant. They will all get you in the same place, but for the purposes of answering this question, we just need to solve one of them. So I'm going to work with sine. So sine of 44 degrees is equal to X divided by 25. We are solving for X and it's being divided by 25. The opposite is to multiply by 25. Whatever you do to one side, you want to do the same thing to the other side of the equation. So 25 and 25 cancel on the right, and we get 25 times sine of 44 degrees is equal to X. So on your calculator, plug in 25 sine of 44, and I get approximately 17.366, and it keeps on going, but since we need to round it off to the nearest tenth of a foot, I only need 2 decimal places, so I'm rounding off to 3. I looked at the number to the right of it, and it's more than 5, so we add 1 to our decimal place, and we get our solution for x as 17.4. And this is our solution. That's all.